that, finally a spirit came forward, stood before the Lord and said, I will entice him. By what means, the Lord asked. I will go and be a lying spirit in the mouths of all his prophets. He said, you will succeed in enticing him. Said the Lord, go and do it. If you are going to be associated with some brown noses, if you are going to be associated with folks who will just tell you what you want to hear to make you feel happy, let me just tell you this. God is going to work on you and break you down until you understand that he is Lord of Lords and King of Kings. So you can't fool around with this gospel stuff. You can't fool around with churches if it's your slapping back from time to time. I'm going to go to make God, happy because I'm in church on Sunday morning. You can't mess around with God's word and God's people, and you really don't know who God is, because God is having a conversation just about you. And if you want to hang with all these folks who are in the world, who are supposed to be your homies and your friends, there's going to be a lying spirit that's going to come through there and keep you right where you want to be. But at the same time, you said, I don't want to be there. Don't make sense, do it? I told y'all before that the demons know how to pray. And when they go to God expecting an answer. When we go to God, we hem and haw. We don't expect an answer. Well, Lord, if you can, if you will, if you would. I would just like to. But the demon said, look, I'm expecting a response. And matter of fact, the demons are in front of you because you ain't dropped to your knees in a while. God is waiting for you to come to him, but because you got so many demons in front of you, you can't bust through to get to God because they already there on your behalf. Come on. I'm just talking about what's in this story right here. The Lord sent a lying spirit that would get Ahab to the point of death. Now, I want to go back a little bit, real quick. Jehoshaphat. Now, remember, he's the one who instigated this whole thing. Is there not a prophet from the Lord? Now, the prophet of the Lord has spoken. In other words, the truth has been given. Don't ask for God's help if you ain't going to use it. Jehoshaphat, after hearing the word that came from the prophet of God who he requested, that would have told me, I'd have said, well, look, King Ahab, I appreciate you, homie, but I'm out. I'm out. Peace. Deuces. Ahab, why are you leaving? Because the Lord said that we shouldn't go up there. But see, when you lay in the bed with the wrong partner and you get caught up and what's going on, and it begins to feel good to you that you can't pull out because your flesh is so trapped, because your spirit does not have a chance to engage, because you'll let your flesh take over. And the only reason your flesh is taking over is because you are not grounded and rooted in God's word. Because the truth has just come to you and told you what to do, but because you don't want to offend your brother, I don't want to offend my sister, I'm going to go with you anyhow, even though God said don't go. How many of us have been there? Just hanging with the wrong crowd.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In the middle of the wrong crowd, riding with them, shaking your head, talking about, Lord, I know I ain't got no business up in here. Man, something bad gonna happen. Something ain't right, but why am I still here? But yet you ain't never saying, stop, pull over, let me get out. That's the train that we ride on. And then we wonder why the train keep wrecking. God said, stay off the tracks. That's not where you belong. Jehoshaphat, go back to where you're supposed to be. You said you follow me. You've been serving me. You've been doing a wonderful job. Don't mess up now by hanging with the enemy. But the story continues. Then Zedekiah, son of Kenaz, went up and slapped Micaiah in the face. Which way did the Spirit from the Lord go when he went? Now, let me just say that here's some more sarcasm that you see from your friends. Talking about, if Jesus loves you, let him get you out of that situation. Huh? Now, you hanging with them, but they going to talk about you. Now, you just saw them smack the prophet of the Lord, and you still going to go along with Ahab. You see what they doing ain't right, but you still going to go, well, man, turn the other cheek. That's what the words say now. You're using it out of context. You understand? You gotta know when to hold them. How they say, know when to hold them, know when to fold them. You gotta know how to get out of a bad situation, especially if God is showing you to go. He stays in. But Micah, I'm so glad Micaiah stayed there, because he declared, if you ever return safely, the Lord has not spoken through me. Then he added, mark my words, all you people. In other words, the prophet of the Lord has spoken. Now, let me look at this scenario too. 400 prophets, right? 400 to 1. God only needs one person to tell the truth, not 400 to lie. Understand that one person represents Christ. He only needed one to save us. Didn't need 400 crucifixions. He needed one. One man brought sin into the world. One man took it out. So it ain't always good to hang with the multitude. I think the children of Israel found that out right there before they went into the promised land. There was 40 spies went out. 12 spies went out. The majority of the report was negative. But only 2 dissented and said, we need to go. You got to know that when you read in God's story that his word overlaps itself. He tells the same because, we hard-headed and we need repetition. Repetition helps us to remember stuff. And so God keeps repeating it because he wants us to be better than what we are. We are more than what we've become. Ain't that right, baby? So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. King of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, listen to this. This is funny too. I don't know if y'all find the same humor, but I find it funny. This is how dumb Jehoshaphat is. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, went up to Ramoth Gilead. The king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will enter the battle in disguise, but you wear your royal robes. In other words, Ahab knows they looking for the king. I'm going to go in disguise, Jehoshaphat, you idiot. and you go in your royal stuff looking like the king. Amen? So the king of Israel disguised himself and went to the battle. Now the king of Aram had ordered his chariot commanders, do not fight with anyone small or great except the king of Israel. Now, if I'm fighting a battle, who you think is the king with all these folk going around? The one who's dressed like the king. God told you not to go. You seen him smack the prophet of God. Then he tells you to go as a king and I'm going to go disguised. And you still go? When the chariot commanders saw Jehoshaphat, they thought, this is the king of Israel. So they turned to attack him, but then Jehoshaphat cried out, and the Lord helped him. God drew them away from him, for when the chariot's commanders saw that he was not the king of Israel, they stopped pursuing him. Interesting side note. Sometimes we get off track, Bacon. And because God respects what you've done, where you've been, and where you're going, and how hard you're trying to meet him, even in the midst of our failure, God sends us a way to be rescued. Who wouldn't serve a God like that? So, in other words, now Jehoshaphat deserved exactly what was coming to him. But because in his crying out, in his pain, in his suffering, through his prayer, he realized I've made a grave error. And I can call on nobody but the only one that I know who to call on, and that's God the Father. And God hears his disparaging cry, and he rescues them by sending the folks who were looking for him the other way. The reason why you keep surviving your mistakes is because God keeps delivering you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's hoping that one day you get it right.
Yes, sir.
That you understand that if I'm for you, I'm more than the whole world against you. That you might understand that if Christ is in me, I can do all things
Yes, sir.
through him which strengthens me. When you begin to understand those things, that's why God keeps delivering you. That's why God keeps helping you back up from the ground, because God knows that you are more than what you've become. He wants to get you to a place where you can now recognize God first, flesh last. See, some of y'all folks who've been fasting for 21 days are trying to meet the flesh at midnight. I say, don't meet the flesh at midnight. Stay in God's hand and rest through the night.
All right.
Don't ask for God's help if you ain't going to use it.